The Friday dungeon finally begins, and this one is nothing like the others. Instead of fighting through waves of monsters, Jinwoo has to win with pure speed, sharp timing, and perfect movement. As soon as the countdown starts, he calls on the Wind Falcon for a speed buff and bursts down the track like a bullet. When projectiles fly at him from every side, Jinwoo doesn't even slow down for even a second. This was once just a game stage he cleared through a screen, but now he is running it with his own body, and the thrill feels even better. Then, just when it looks like he is following the normal route, Jinwoo reveals the hidden shortcut only he knows. He dives into the waterway with a summoned dolphin, slips past the traps from below, then switches to a wyvern and soars over the final obstacles. In the blink of an eye, Jinwoo reaches the finish line and proves once again why he is the best. The reason our guy can easily clear this dungeon is, for 10 long years Baek Jinwoo lived for one thing alone, Battle of Summoners. While everyone else saw it as a dead trash game, he turned it into his kingdom and became a living legend known as Jinugod. On the day he finally cleared the impossible 100th floor, Jinwoo thought it was the perfect time to quit and start living like a normal person. But the moment he claimed victory, everything changed. A giant screen appeared in the sky, strange summoning scrolls rained down, and the world was thrown into chaos as monsters began crawling out of the darkness. Before Jinwoo could even understand what was happening, he was hit by Truck-kun and lost consciousness. When he finally opened his eyes again, 3 years had already passed. The game had become reality. Summons now walked the earth, and the whole world was searching for the man who cleared the final floor. And now Jinwoo had only one choice: rise again and become the strongest in this new world. After Jinwoo is discharged from the hospital and returns home, he begins researching the new reality of the world. Basically, every in-game system has manifested in reality, ranging from the player versus player matches, raids, dungeons, the Tower of Trials, and the like. 3 years later, everyone has basically adapted to living alongside summons, but even with this, Jinwoo is confident that they can't be as adept as he is. Just then, he is offered the chance to open the cube inventory, and the moment he accepts, the tutorial kicks off. Jinwoo then makes his way to a deserted area after the tutorial because he doesn't know what kind of summon would pop out, so he has to be careful. As a tutorial reward, he was given 2 low-grade summoning scrolls, and this was when he was warned that it would be better if he used the scroll outside. With the scroll in his hand, Jinwoo finally admits that the world has changed. At this point, he can only pray that it is something decent because if he starts with trash-tier summons, he is pretty screwed. Even with this, he is worried because the game is known for its notorious drop rates. There is a 1% chance of drawing a D-rank summon and a 5% chance of drawing E-rank, while F-rank holds the bulk, 94%. Before tearing the scroll, Jinwoo starts begging all the gods that he serves, hoping that he gets something really good. In fact, he is willing to get an E-rank summon as long as it is useful. Upon tearing the scroll, Jinwoo is left wondering what would happen next, and suddenly, a bright light hits the ground. A magic circle appears on the ground, and from it, a summon emerges. It turns out to be a summon, Wind Fairy, which is X rank. Jinwoo is totally confused by this because he doesn't even know that a rank like this exists. The fairy doesn't know what is going on until she sees Jinwoo standing close to her. She freaks out because she didn't even realize that she was about to get summoned for real. Even Jinwoo is stunned because he can't understand how a summon is talking. Jinwoo finally pulls himself together to ask the fairy if she is Ramba. The fairy replies that there is only one person who calls her this, and it was Jinugod. This is when it dawns on her that she is standing in front of Jinugod. She lunges in to hug Jinwoo, saying she has missed him so much. Jinwoo finally remembers that there was an E-rank fairy that he pulled back then. If one uses her hidden mechanics really well while equipping the right runes, she automatically becomes a god-tier unit that exponentially boosts attack speed. Because they were stuck together for so long, Jinwoo had no choice but to give her a nickname, and this was when he chose Ramba. However, Jinwoo can remember that she was removed from the game during a bug patch in the first year. The devs claimed that they detected an excessive balance-breaking exploit, and Jinwoo crashed out when Ramba was removed because he spent a whole year raising the fairy. Jinwoo checks out Ramba's status and realizes that she was in quarantine, leaving him confused. With tears in her eyes, Ramba mentioned that she was suddenly dragged off to some weird place and was locked up so well that she couldn't escape. She holds Jinwoo with her tiny hands, telling him that she doesn't want them to ever leave each other's side. Jinwoo then asks her who locked her up, but her memory is restricted from remembering whoever it is. Whenever she tries to remember, her head hurts really badly, and Jinwoo figures out that there is a restriction on her, preventing her from knowing who it is. Jinwoo suggests that she tell him whatever she remembers, but she can't even remember this because they were in quarantine. From her words, Jinwoo realizes that she was not the only one in quarantine, and he asks her if there are other summons like her who are currently locked up. She says yes, but lets him know that she doesn't know them since they are not all locked up in the same room. She says she can only figure out that they are around 10 in number, and it suddenly dawns on Jinwoo that she is basically talking about the 10 summons that vanished after being flagged as bugs while he was using them. Ramba then tells him that it appears that they get the chance to escape the quarantine whenever Jinwoo tears a scroll, because it's been a long time since she felt the call of a low-grade summoning scroll until Jinwoo used it. This immediately confirms his suspicion that he is the only one who can pull X ranks. He wonders if this is a reward for clearing the 100th floor of the Tower of Trials. Jinwoo decides to tear the other scroll that he has, hoping that he gets another good summon, but this time he obtains an F-rank hairy gorilla. Jinwoo is disappointed by this, but it only confirms that the X-rank drop rate is totally random. Jinwoo is pissed at the trash game, and he concludes that he just has to tear as many scrolls as he can to increase his chances of pulling X ranks. In fact, he believes that he can become far stronger than he was before if he can obtain all the X ranks. Jinwoo then tells Ramba to stop calling him Jinwoo God and only call him by his name. Ramba asks him why this is, and it is basically because of the 5 emperors who have spread the name worldwide. Since he has been out for 3 years, he can't say for sure how far the gap between them is, and he doesn't know what disadvantage he might have. If word gets out that he can control X ranks, he is only going to become a subject of envy and jealousy. Suddenly, the ground starts to shake, and while Jinwoo is wondering what is going on, a dungeon appears in front of him, and the system tells him that it is time for him to move to the next phase. Jinwoo hesitates, but then he remembers that he was the most powerful player before. At the same time, the game is different from reality, but then Jinwoo calms himself with the fact that it's just a tutorial dungeon. Jinwoo then draws the courage to enter the dungeon because he has to adapt to the current reality. Upon entering the dungeon, Jinwoo could sense the eerie feeling in the air. The system tells him that to engage in dungeon combat, he has to form a team of summons, and at the moment, he only has 2 summons, Ramba and the hairy gorilla. Apparently, the number of summons per team is 5, and the system asks him if he is ready to add his 2 summons to the team. In the traditional sense, people would max out their team with all 5 summons to increase the chances of successfully clearing a dungeon. Even though he has only 2 summons, and challenging a dungeon with those might seem reckless, Jinwoo believes that with the right strategy, it is not impossible to conquer the dungeon. Jinwoo has taken on scary dungeons thousands of times already. Since the entire walkthrough is already mapped out in his head, Jinwoo accepts the challenge. After accepting the challenge, the monster he is supposed to defeat appears in the distance, and it turns out to be a starving gray wolf. He is expected to defeat the wolf and escape the cave. To protect him, a protective shield is generated around his body, while his summons do the fighting. Jinwoo is impressed with the fact that the player protection system from the game is implemented in reality. However, he is warned that he is going to die if he is attacked without an active protective shield. This is when it dawns on him that failure means death and no chance to start over again. With the wolf ready to pounce, Jinwoo orders the gorilla to charge toward the wolf. However, the gorilla's attack speed looks like that of a turtle, leaving Jinwoo completely disappointed. At the same time, he expects this kind of trash, and he orders Ramba to use her skill to boost the gorilla's attack speed. Ramba then swings her staff to boost the gorilla's attack speed, and the moment the effect kicks in, the gorilla charges in like a beast on drugs. Jinwoo is impressed by this, but his excitement soon goes down the drain when he realizes that the wolf is larger than he expected. However, Jinwoo is living with the delusion that there is no way the gorilla would lose. Jinwoo starts calculating variables in his head while the two lunge at each other. All of his calculations are rendered useless when the wolf pins the gorilla to the ground. Jinwoo screams in frustration, telling Ramba to add more fuel to her attack. Ramba assures him that she is already swinging as hard as she can. Ramba's boost comes into play again, and the gorilla gets the strength to punch the wolf really hard to get it off its body. The wolf is sent crashing to the ground, and Ramba immediately capitalizes on this. She puts everything she has into boosting the gorilla's speed and attack power. The gorilla lunges at the wolf and delivers a barrage of blows to the wolf's body to end it. The wolf is beaten into the ground, and the gorilla beats its chest to declare its victory. With the wolf defeated, Jinwoo gets the information that he has cleared the dungeon, and he celebrates the fact that he survived. Meanwhile, Jinwoo's sister Ajin is seen cashing out some funds at the association headquarters. It turns out that after the world changed 3 years ago, Ajin managed to get herself a new profession, and this is the profession of a rune farming player. Her job is to earn profit by selling runes to players who look promising. After Jinwoo's accident, Ajin decided to become a player, and by some miracle, she found an intermediate summoner's grimoire in a dungeon. From within this, she was able to obtain a C-rank summon, and she considers herself very lucky. Thanks to her summon, the C-rank Shadow Elf, she has been able to steadily make money by farming runes. Just then, she gets a call from Jinwoo. She asks him if he has been discharged, and she confirms this, but tells him that he is calling because of an entirely different reason. He reveals that he learned from their father that she now sells runes, and she yells at Jinwoo for using such a vulgar description instead of just calling her a rune farmer. Jinwoo has no choice but to correct himself, saying it is rune farming just because he wants something from her. He then asks her if she knows where the synthesis center is, and she replies that it is in the player zone. Apparently, after the game became reality, people required a space to manage all things related to their summons, and this is how player zones came to be. There are also synthesis centers, enhancement centers, and more. Basically, everything players want can be handled around the tower. Ajin and Jinwoo then meet at a cafe, and Ajin explains everything he doesn't know to him. She reveals that there are 2 towers that turned into towers of trial after the game became reality, and these are the Jumsil Tower and Hyundai Tower. Even though it is different from country to country, the Tower of Trials only appeared in these 2 locations. Since he is looking for player zones, he can find them at the towers. As the conversation continues, Ajin asks Jinwoo what ranks his summons are, and Jinwoo replies that they are E and F ranks. Ajin is surprised to hear this, and she tells her brother that he is lucky. Jinwoo chuckles nervously, saying she is right just to avoid any other unnecessary conversation. Jinwoo then tells his sister that he is going to need her help because he wants to adapt quickly. Jinwoo assures Ajin that he is going to give her some allowance later, and Ajin is surprised that Jinwoo is being generous even though she earns more money than him. Jinwoo teases his sister, telling her that she never knows what the future holds because he might just become the world's greatest player. Ajin dunks on him, telling him that he can only dream about becoming strong like one of the 5 emperors. Ajin tells Jinwoo that the 5 emperors are geniuses and people like them can never reach their level. Jinwoo smiles when he hears this, and he tells his sister to just show him the way to where he wants to go, because he would like to see what a player zone looks like. On their way to the player zone, Ajin asks him what kind of summon he pulled, and Jinwoo replies that it is a wind fairy. Ajin is totally confused when she hears this because it is her first time hearing of a wind fairy. She suggests that they summon it, but Jinwoo refuses. Ajin screams at her brother for being such a loser because they are not strangers, and it doesn't look like his summon is going to wear out just by staring at it. Jinwoo agrees but tells Ajin to show hers first. Ajin gladly pulls out her summon while telling Jinwoo not to die from jealousy when he sees her summon. Seeing how confident she is, Jinwoo is interested in seeing what kind of treasure she is hiding. When her summon finally shows up, it turns out to be a C-rank shadow elf. Jinwoo is extremely disappointed when he sees this, and his sister berates him for the kind of reaction that he is giving off. She tells him that C-rank summons are basically high-tier nobility, so he has no reason to dunk on her precious summon. Deep down, Jinwoo cannot believe that his sister is regarding the shadow elf as a high-rank summon, because back in the day, he used summons like this to gather exp at the fusion lab. Jinwoo then asks Ajin if the shadow elf also speaks, but the question sounds dumb to both the elf and Ajin. Jinwoo tries greeting the elf, but he just looks stupid in the process. Ajin scolds him, telling him that summons don't speak, and this is when it dawns on him that Ramba being able to speak is not a common phenomenon. Jinwoo is forced to ask again, and Ajin tells him that summons don't have a voice whatsoever. Jinwoo realizes that he was dumb to have assumed that all humanoid summons could speak just because Ramba could speak. Ajin then tells Jinwoo that it is his turn to show her his summon, but Jinwoo refuses, saying he is going to show her later. Ajin crashes out, and she calls Jinwoo out for not keeping his promise. To Jinwoo, he figures out that it would be risky to unveil his summons in public. Shortly afterward, they arrive at the player zone, and Jinwoo is left in complete shock. The whole scenario is different from what he remembers the area to be, and Ajin explains that the corporations tore down the original tower after the Tower of Trials appeared. Ajin berates her brother again, telling him that there is no one who would want to spend their time at such a gloomy scene. Ajin tells Jinwoo that the whole bright scene makes it look more like a land of adventure and thrills. In addition, a dungeon swallowed the tower, so there is no one who would even come there for a vacation. Jinwoo is forced to admit that the whole scenario is pretty exhilarating. Jinwoo spots an exchange scene in the distance, and he asks Ajin about it. Ajin tells him that the players can trade everything from scrolls to runes. This brings back a nostalgic feeling for Jinwoo because back then he was always cracking open scrolls and runes with a rich friend of his, Baekchan. Ajin shows him a pamphlet that contains everything he needs, and if he needs a guide, he should head to the information center. However, Jinwoo tells her that he is good as he is because he has nothing to learn and no questions to ask. Jinwoo plans to use everything within his reach to get to the top. Ajin asks him if he is sure about this, and he assures her that he is. He tells her that she is free to leave because he would like to look around for a bit. Ajin agrees, but she could sense that her brother has been acting really weird, as if he were possessed. Ajin concludes that her brother is just trying to adapt in his own way, so she is just going to stay out of his way. However, she yells at him, telling him to call her if he needs help. Moments later, Jinwoo makes his way to a deserted area before summoning Ramba. Ramba emerges excitedly and she starts yapping as usual, but Jinwoo shushes her, telling her to keep her voice down. Ramba then asks him what the issue is, and Jinwoo tells her that she can't speak when they are in public. Ramba almost crashes out when she hears this, and Jinwoo tells her that he doesn't want people to notice what she can do. He tells her that from that moment forward, she is only allowed to talk to him when they are inside a dungeon. He asks her to nod if she understands what he just said, and she does exactly this. Once they are on the same page, Jinwoo suggests that they take stock of their current situation. He knows he needs capital to start off his life, but his current account balance doesn't do justice at all. He wonders how this is all he has in his account, and the option of working a part-time job doesn't fully complement what he wants. He knows that asking his parents for money is an option, but he doesn't want to because they are already working too hard to keep the family running. Jinwoo concludes that he is just going to be seen as a parasite if he decides to ask them for a handout after everything they have done for him. Since he once started from zero to get to where he was, Jinwoo is confident that he can get it done again. The reason he was the best of the best was that he was a non-spender ranker. He basically got everything he had without spending his cash on the game, and since he could do it in the game, he is determined to do the same in reality. Suddenly, he gets a notification that he has received 500,000, and this shocks him because he doesn't remember asking anyone for money. Jinwoo checks out the transaction history and realizes that the money is from his mother. Jinwoo is completely overwhelmed when he sees this, because he knows just how much his mother has sacrificed for him. With an emotional voice, he thanks his mother and promises to lift his family up by the time he makes it big. Since the world already has a 3-year advantage over him, Jinwoo figures out that he can't afford to waste a single second. Jinwoo concludes that the way out is to run dungeons to gather the materials he needs for his growth, which means the first thing he needs to do is to build a team. He immediately purchases 3 low-grade summoning scrolls in an attempt to pull something nice. However, his first pull is total trash, and in the end, the only good thing he got was a poison lizard that is E rank. Because he is able to pull 2 E ranks in 5 pulls, he believes that he has beaten the 5% odds twice. The poison lizard is useful, but the other 2 are nothing of interest, so he plans to use them as temporary filler. However, he has managed to gather a team, and he plans to grow with this current team. His plan is simple, and it involves grinding for runes, hunting, and tearing scrolls. Jinwoo's belief in himself is pretty firm because he has done this over and over again. He knows that if he can gather all 10 of the X ranks, everything is going to be a piece of cake for him. With this, he concludes that his priority is to find all the X ranks. Jinwoo then tries to find a dungeon the traditional way, but things are not like how they are in the game. He searches the dungeon locations on his phone, and what he sees shocks the hell out of him. He is so shocked that he screams out like a dog, leaving the other people who are there to believe that he's gone crazy. It turns out that he can't even enter a dungeon just because he has a summon. He opens the dungeon tutorial on his phone, and he learns that dungeon gates appear randomly, regardless of location. One can also tell a dungeon's difficulty by the energy it emits, but the regulations have changed. So no matter how easy the dungeon, he can only enter if he is officially registered as a player. Jinwoo sits down in despair, admitting that he has the worst luck of all because he doesn't know why he would awaken when they just changed the law. Seeing that he is sad, Ramba cheers him up and he pats her on the head, thanking her for the support. Just then, he gets a call from his sister, asking him when he is coming back home because their mother is already asking about him. Jinwoo tells her that they don't need to worry about his dinner, promising to sort it out. However, there is something that he would like to ask his sister. He asks her if she knows that one has to be registered as a player to enter a dungeon, and Ajin stammers because she couldn't answer. Jinwoo asks her if she intentionally hid it from him, but she assures him that she only forgot. She mentions that it is a new regulation, and this is because many people were dying in dungeons, so the government was forced to step in. Jinwoo is shocked to hear this, and Ajin lets him know that it is worse than he thinks. Because of this, the government stationed staff at the entrance of every dungeon, so one can't even enter without the permission of the staff stationed at the entrance. Upon hearing this, Jinwoo realizes that he is in a bit of a bind because with everything he searched earlier, he realizes that registration alone is going to be stressful. He wonders if the restriction was put in place to curb the number of players because if everyone became a player blinded by money, the social system would inevitably collapse. Ajin then tells him that there is also an active ranking system, and the system ranks the top 100 players domestically and internationally every year. To show how bad it is, Korea is not even included in the world rankings, and Ajin says it would have been nice if Junugod could just appear to turn everything around. Before Ajin starts saying things that would connect him to Junugod, he quickly ends the call. Since he has everything set up already, Jinwoo figures out that it would be better if he rests for the day first. The next morning, as early as 6 a.m, Jinwoo had gotten himself ready to leave the house. His parents are shocked when they see him leaving the house so early. His mother urges him to at least eat before leaving the house, but Jinwoo refuses, saying he has to go. After putting on his shoe, he turns to his parents, apologizing for being a piece of shit son all this time. He also thanks them for everything so far, and after saying this, he leaves. His father is totally blown away by his sudden reaction, but his mother is worried about him. Jinwoo's father assures his wife that Jinwoo will be fine because the government is always providing safety training these days. The man then suggests that they eat so that they can head out too. Meanwhile, Jinwoo's mother can only pray for the safe return of her son. In the new era where everyone could become players, South Korea ended up drawing attention to itself thanks to its high mortality rate in dungeons. This is thanks to the main character syndrome that was born out of greed, and they fell into the delusion that they were protagonists of a fantasy world. Thanks to their recklessness, a lot of people died in the dungeons. Because of this, the foreign media concludes that the former gaming powerhouse remains at the bottom of the rankings. Jinwoo cannot believe that many people died because of delusion, and even Jinwoo himself knows that he is not one to judge because he was once addicted to the game for over 10 years. Later that day, he arrives at the association to submit his application to become a player, and Jinwoo asks the attendant how many people would be able to receive player qualifications. The lady tells him that out of the multitude who came to register, only 50 people who pass the exam will acquire the title of player. When Jinwoo hears this, he realizes that it is not going to be easy because there are currently over 1,000 people just like him who have come to file their applications. However, Jinwoo believes in his ability to be one of the qualified ones because if he can't qualify, there is no reason why he was once regarded as the king of the game. Jinwoo then sits in the hall, waiting for them to process his application. An important figure, who is an assemblyman but also a qualification judge, Park Chang-seok, is present in the room. Chang-seok is still complaining about the whole qualification process when a side of the wall is blown apart. Panic ensues and Chang-seok immediately gets on his feet to investigate what is happening. Just then, a dude enters the room with his summons, a scary red orc and other annoying monsters. Apparently, the dude is there to get revenge on Chang-seok for killing his brothers. Seeing how crazy the situation has become, Chang-seok also pops out his summons, and they all look intimidating. It turns out that the dude who is attacking them is part of a gang, and Jinwoo didn't even know what was happening because he had his earpiece on. Moments later, he turns around to find Chang-seok and the crazy dude in a standoff, leaving him totally shocked and confused. The civilians in the room start to panic, but some believe in Chang-seok because he is known as the dude who crushes gangs like it's nothing. Jinwoo is shocked when he hears this because he doesn't expect people to start using summons to act like thugs. Chang-seok immediately orders everyone to deploy their protective shields and also pop out their summons because it's a freaking emergency. Ramba takes a moment to assess the situation, and just as she is about to start yapping, Jinwoo covers her mouth, reminding her that she is not allowed to talk in public. The gang member then unleashes his orc, taunting Chang-seok and asking him how long he thinks he can last against him. Meanwhile, Jinwoo is hiding behind a table, and he is not interested in getting himself involved because he knows that it is going to be a pain in his ass if he does. Jinwoo decides to just hold back in the meantime to see how they fight each other. As the orc rushes toward Chang-seok, he stops his advance by unleashing fire on him. One of Chang-seok's summons has fire as its ability, but when the fire subsides, the orc remains unharmed. In fact, it appears that the orc is being replenished by the fire. The gang member teases Chang-seok, asking him if that is all he can do. At this point, Chang-seok is already getting worried, but it appears that Jinwoo has noticed something already. Jinwoo realizes that the civilians are already freaking out because Chang-seok is getting pushed back. Jinwoo wonders what it is that he can do because he is worried about helping and getting caught in an unnecessary scuffle. While he is busy thinking about this, the orc is being a menace to Chang-seok's summons. Since he is not ready to die before he achieves his goal, Jinwoo slowly walks up to Chang-seok and he taps him on the shoulder. Chang-seok urges him to get back because it is dangerous. However, Jinwoo refuses, and he whispers in his ear telling him that the timing of the flame turtle is a bit off. He tells him to keep note of the buffers behind the red orc. It turns out that the buffers are casting a fire resistance buff, and Jinwoo lets Chang-seok know that there is no way a fire attack would work with that kind of timing. Chang-seok is surprised when he hears this because he never knew the orc was turning red because of fire resistance. Since this is the case, Chang-seok orders his flame turtle to roast all of the summons, including the buffers. Surprisingly, the plan works, and the orc is roasted alongside the other enemy summons. The gang member freaks out because he never expected Chang-seok to figure out his trick. Before he knows, he loses all of his summons, and his protective shield is shattered too. Realizing that he is already screwed, he starts begging, telling Chang-seok that he is going to turn himself in. However, Chang-seok grabs him with his tree-like summon, telling him to keep his mouth shut. He reminds him that gang members face immediate execution and there are no exceptions. Tears roll down his face as his life is squashed out of his body. His blood splatters everywhere, and those in the room celebrate Chang-seok's victory. Jinwoo, on the other hand, is a bit traumatized by the whole thing because the dude might have been a bad guy, but it feels so weird to just kill him brutally. With this, Jinwoo concludes that the world is no longer what it used to be. He realizes that surviving is going to need some serious resolve, and just then, Chang-seok walks up to him, thanking him for the assistance. Jinwoo humbly replies that it is nothing too serious, and Chang-seok mentions that he would like to reward him, so he asks him which guild he belongs to. Jinwoo replies that he is not even a registered player yet, so he doesn't have a guild. Chang-seok is shocked when he hears this because Jinwoo was able to recognize a summon buff like it was nothing, and he hasn't even been registered yet. Chang Seok then asks him if he has his ID because this is all he wants, and Jinwoo says yes before handing over the ID. Chang Seok tells him that after they have conducted a background check on him, his reward will be issued according to the regulations. Jinwoo is glad to hear this, and he walks away after. Later on, Chang Seok puts a call through to one of his assistants, telling him to check out Jinwoo's data and get back to him. That evening, Jinwoo rewards Ramba with a big donut for behaving herself. At the same time, Jinwoo hopes that nothing serious happens because it wasn't his intention to step forward, but it came that way because everyone in the room would have died if he hadn't shared the tip. Seeing how tough everything has gotten, Jinwoo concludes that he has to collect summoning scrolls and summon the next X rank as soon as he can. His current priorities are the Blast Dragon Mage and the Drill Instructors. Apparently they are D rank and E rank that are obtainable from low-grade summoning scrolls. The next day, Chang Seok learns that Jinwoo was hospitalized for 3 years after an accident, and this is when it dawns on him why Jinwoo is an unregistered player. Chang Seok doesn't see anything weird about this because accidents were a normal occurrence when the chaos initially started. Chang Seok is hit with more surprise when he learns that Jinwoo basically applied for player registration the moment he was discharged. Chang Seok whips out Jinwoo's file and realizes that his assistant wasn't capping. Chang Seok is so completely overwhelmed by this that he totally forgets that he is outside. Chang Seok immediately decides that he is going to come in as one of the judges for that month. Chang Seok knows that Jinwoo registering to be a player the moment he woke up shows just how adaptable he is. Chang Seok is excited because he might have just gotten his hands on a real gem. On the day scheduled for the training, Jinwoo arrives at the training center to find a crowd just like when he registered back then. It dawns on Jinwoo that he has to crush all of this competition if he wants to have a chance to become a player. Nonetheless, he is not worried one bit because this is child's play to him, and no one knows the game better than him. Moments later, the program starts, and Jinwoo is shocked when he realizes that Chang Seok is present as the evaluating judge. Not long after this, Chang Seok calls Jinwoo in for a private meeting, and Jinwoo expresses his shock that the man is a judge because it is the last thing he expected. Chang Seok teases him, saying no one knows if it is fate after all. Chang Seok then asks him what he thinks about the training. Jinwoo takes a moment before answering because everything they were taught in the lecture was something he knew already. In fact, one of their strategies was developed by Jinwoo himself. Jinwoo finally answers, telling Chang Seok that the training wasn't so bad, but deep down, he is pissed. Chang Seok then tells him that he called him in because of the compensation he mentioned the last time they met. However, before this, Chang Seok says he has a question for him. He wants to know if Jinwoo was, by any chance, a gamer. Jinwoo is confused by this, and Chang Seok explains to him that gamers are people who played the game before it became reality. Basically, anyone who has played the game at some point, no matter how short it is, gets this title. In fact, 70% of Korea's rankers are gamers. Jinwoo understands why Chang Seok wanted to know this because there is no way a random person would have known about summon buffs. Jinwoo then replies, saying he played the game a bit, and Chang Seok celebrates his sharp intuition. He asks Jinwoo how long he played the game, and Jinwoo immediately takes a moment before answering. He knows that the game was trash, and it barely had any players, and saying he played it for 10 years would immediately point to the fact that he is Jinwoo God. Jinwoo tweaks his answer, saying he played the game for about a year, but even with this, Chang Seok is still completely impressed. Jinwoo wonders if he had shot himself in the foot, and Chang Seok tells him how amazing he is to have played the game for a whole year. Jinwoo replies that it was just like that, but Chang Seok doesn't even care about all of these. He knows that most Korean rankers couldn't even last half a year, but Jinwoo was able to stay strong for a full year. Chang Seok clears his throat before telling him that he has prepared 2 options for his compensation, and he is free to choose whichever he prefers. The first option is that he is going to use his authority to instantly register him as a player, while also securing him a position at the headquarters. Chang Seok is busy saying this with all enthusiasm, but Jinwoo doesn't seem moved at all. The second option is 5 million in prize money. Both options sound terrible to Jinwoo, but to Chang Seok, he believes that he has presented Jinwoo with the best options that he can. Chang Seok expects Jinwoo to take the instant registration option, but Jinwoo shocks him, telling him that he wants the cash. Chang Seok cannot believe his ears when he hears this, and he tries telling Jinwoo that player registration takes a very long time, but Jinwoo assures him that he would prefer to take the long route. Jinwoo stands up, telling Chang Seok that he can handle the registration himself, and he has no intention of joining headquarters anyway. Deep down, Jinwoo considers the corporate job a waste of his precious time because he has to track down his X-rank summons, so there is no time to waste. After the meeting with Chang Seok, Jinwoo heads to take the practical exam. The official tells him that all he has to do to pass is to clear the daily dungeon. He's going to be entering the Tuesday dungeon, and the objective is a time attack, so he has to clear it as fast as possible. Surprisingly, Chang Seok is present on the scene to witness Jinwoo take the practical exam because he never expected him to refuse the offer. In addition to this, he has figured out that Jinwoo understands runes and summons better than anyone because he has provided insights that left even professors behaving like kids. This is when Changseok realizes that Jinwoo is not a talent that can be thrown away. Changseok bites his finger in regret, wondering if he should have offered Jinwoo better terms. After the official is done explaining to Jinwoo, they tell him that he can proceed into the dungeon. Jinwoo then enters the dungeon with his summons, and the system informs him that he is to clear out the slimes that have taken over the dungeon. Jinwoo then summons Ramba, telling her that she knows what to do, and she assures Jinwoo that she is on it. Ramba then buffs up the gorilla's attack power and speed. It turns out that the Tuesday dungeon is structured as a maze, and one is expected to fight through the slimes to get to the boss. It is more or less a place where beginners waste all their time getting lost, but Jinwoo is not a beginner, and he knows that he is supposed to ignore the slow slimes. This is a dungeon that he has conquered so many times that he even got tired of it. Jinwoo basically heads straight into the deep part of the dungeon where he finds the boss of the dungeon, which is a giant king slime. Jinwoo orders the gorilla to go after the king slime and it lunges at the slime, punching it with 2 hands, ultimately crushing the king slime. Jinwoo watches from behind like a proud dad because this is exactly why he likes Ramba. Her attack boost makes her quite overpowered because it can even make an F rank look broken. Jinwoo watches the gorilla pound the king slime into water and he wonders what would happen if Ramba's boost applies to other summons too. With the king slime defeated, he gets a congratulatory message telling him that he has defeated the boss monster. He is informed that he cleared the dungeon in 5 minutes, but Jinwoo is not impressed by this, since it usually took him 1 minute back then. Suddenly, he is informed that he has broken the South Korean record, which has earned him a special achievement unlocked. As a reward, he is given 3 high-grade summoning scrolls, and in addition to this, he is given 2 low-grade abrasives. Jinwoo freaks out in shock because he just broke a record that he didn't even know existed. The officials who are monitoring everything behind the scenes are also left in shock when they notice that the record has changed. The officials are all left in shock because this is a really massive drop. They are even more shocked when they find out that the person who broke the record is Jinwoo, whom they have never heard of. The fact that a non-ranker broke the record makes everything even more shocking, and the news soon gets to Changseok. It is at this point that Changseok concludes that Jinwoo is a national-level talent, and they have to do everything in their power to secure him. Changseok knows that they must do everything within their power to make sure they don't lose Jinwoo to an overseas country because their country's stand depends on it. Changseok immediately orders his subordinates to register Jinwoo without ado. He explains that time attacks are split into domestic and global rankings. The first place in Korea is a dude named Kang, and he held the record of 6 minutes. The first place in the world is Rachel, who holds the record with 2 minutes. With Jinwoo's arrival, he has already surpassed Kang's record. Changseok tells his subordinates that no matter what, Jinwoo deserves special privileges. When Jinwoo steps out of the dungeon, he is totally disappointed to find out that 5 minutes is considered top tier in this current era. Just then, Changseok comes rushing over to him, telling him that he has been wanting to meet him. Changseok lets Jinwoo know that his record was amazing while asking him how he was able to break the record on his first try. Jinwoo can't even give a correct answer, and he just answers nervously because the record is not even his best. Changseok then hands him his player's license, telling him that he has been specially registered because he has proven himself. Jinwoo is focused on the license when Changseok asks him again how he was able to break the record. Jinwoo thinks about the whole situation. He knows that if he reveals what he knows, South Korea's level will instantly skyrocket. But the problem is what comes after. There are 2 things that might happen. He might get lucky and be rewarded with wealth and fame, but on the other hand, he might be grabbed by bad guys who would torture every bit of information out of him. Jinwoo then replies, telling Changseok that his question is very rude. Changseok admits that it is, saying strategies among players are shared only among themselves because they are highly sensitive information. However, he lets him know that South Korea is desperate to have someone like him. From his point of view, Jinwoo can see that the dude is not a bad guy because he paid him immediately, and his personality appears to be okay too. In addition, the dude is quick-witted, and Jinwoo figures that he might just use the nation instead. He knows that he would get the chance to grow faster if he does this, rather than pushing it solo. Jinwoo then tells Changseok that he would prefer it if they moved somewhere else. The two head to a cafe, and Changseok lets him know that the nation needs his help. He reveals that they are aware he was bedridden for 3 years, and Jinwoo immediately asks with hostility if they investigated him. Changseok apologizes for this, saying unregistered high-level players can be dangerous, which is why they did what they had to do. Jinwoo then asks him if they are still going to investigate him now that he is registered, but he lets Changseok know that he won't want him to do it again. Changseok agrees to this, and deep down he is surprised that Jinwoo is maintaining his stance because most people would have panicked at the mention of the nation. This tells Changseok that Jinwoo knows his worth. Jinwoo then asks Changseok what he stands to gain from helping him, and Changseok says he would gain his cooperation. Jinwoo asks him what he means by this, and Chang Seok starts talking about his position at the headquarters, saying the more votes he has, the more power he gets. Jinwoo immediately sees Chang Seok as a normal politician. Chang Seok continues by saying he would provide his full support within his authority, but Jinwoo is not impressed by this. Jinwoo then decides to make a deal with Chang Seok. He tells him that since he just registered, he is going to focus on growing for a month with his full support. Jinwoo says they are going to continue with the plan if he likes his growth. But if he doesn't, he is going to return everything he has received or repay it with information of equal value. Chang Seok figures out that Jinwoo is trying to use him as a secretary for a month, but he is not worried about it whatsoever. Chang Seok agrees to the deal because he's figured out that he has more to gain by staying close to Jinwoo. After settling their deal, Jinwoo tells Chang Seok not to tell anyone about him breaking a record because he's worried about his safety. Chang Seok is about to tell him that the headquarters can protect him, but he stops mid-sentence when he realizes that he might be giving them too much credit. This is because the headquarters has been struggling to deal with common gangs, not to mention protecting an asset. Chang Seok can see that Jinwoo knows this, so he promises Jinwoo that he'll do his best to keep things under wraps. However, he warns that he might not be able to completely stop the news from spreading, but Jinwoo doesn't mind. After that, Jinwoo leaves, satisfied that he was able to get everything he wants, including protecting his privacy. On his way out, he decides to check the rewards he got and is amazed that he got 3 high-grade summoning scrolls and 2 low-grade polishing agents. Jinwoo is not surprised that he was given an achievement reward even though someone had first broken the record. This is because achievement rewards can be given once per player. He contemplates opening the high-grade scrolls but changes his mind as selling them to make some money sounds better. He remembers that Chang Seok told him about the player web, which can only be accessed by registered players. It's an online marketplace where all item trading happens, and Chang Seok had helped Jinwoo set it up. Jinwoo then checks how much he can sell the high-grade summoning scrolls for. He's completely shocked when he realizes that they sell for as high as 3 million won. Jinwoo can't believe he can make such an absurd amount after just 5 minutes in the dungeon. Since stacking bills is this easy, Jinwoo can't wait to show his family the good life soon. He then decides to sell the advanced scrolls and use the money to purchase low-grade summoning scrolls, since X-rank summons are cheat-level summons that can be gotten from low-grade scrolls. Besides, they're more powerful than the B-grade he can get from these advanced summoning scrolls. Jinwoo notices that the low-grade scrolls cost 5,000 won despite being extremely common. He wonders why no one is lowering their prices since the sellers are even more than the buyers. Unable to figure it out, he calls Ajin to ask her about it. Ajin explains that the headquarters actually buys the low-grade scrolls from sellers. When Jinwoo asks why, she tells him that they claim it's to support top-ranked players. Apparently, the government buys it in bulk with national funds and sets the sale price at 5,000 won with a daily purchase limit. Since everyone can sell directly to the government, no one wants to lower their price. Ajin tells Jinwoo that the government might scrap it soon because it's an old policy, and the headquarters already has way too much stockpile than they can handle. Realizing what he needs to do next, Jinwoo grins and thanks Ajin for the information before hanging up. Since there is a surplus of low-grade summoning scrolls in the hands of the ones who claim they want to work with him, Jinwoo visits Chang Seok. Chang Seok, as usual, is over the moon and welcomes Jinwoo warmly, making him flustered. He then asks if he can help, and Jinwoo tells him that he needs low-grade scrolls. Chang Seok is surprised that he's asking for a low-grade instead of intermediate or advanced tiered ones. He then asks Jinwoo how many he needs, and Jinwoo says he needs as many as possible. Chang Seok tries to stay calm even though the request makes him uneasy. However, he decides to agree since the headquarters gets about 50,000 of them daily. Chang Seok says he can sell but starts to warn Jinwoo about reselling. But Jinwoo explains that he doesn't want to resell because he plans to use them for himself. Chang Seok suspects that Jinwoo must be planning something brilliant as usual because he's not just an ordinary gamer. He figures that for Jinwoo to be collecting this much low-grade scrolls, then he must be planning something spectacular. However, he informs Jinwoo that there is a catch, and that is, he has to give them a useful piece of information. Chang Seok tells him it's because his job is to serve the people, so using the people's resources without a good probable cause might make him lose their trust. He tells Jinwoo that exchanging the low-grade scrolls for information is a win-win situation that keeps him safe. Jinwoo is not surprised that Chang Seok refuses to hand the scrolls over for free, but he's not bothered by the request because it means his information is quite valuable compared to the scrolls. Jinwoo then agrees to the deal and tells Chang Seok about the achievement-breaking reward. He tells Chang Seok that the national achievement reward is 3 advanced summoning scrolls per dungeon. Jinwoo adds that another player can still get the same rewards again after breaking the previous player's record time, so if players take turns refreshing every second like a relay race, they can get the maximum reward by clearing the dungeons in the shortest time, and doing this will also boost the country's rankings. Chang Seok tells Jinwoo that their top-ranked players have already used this method, However, he figures it can be done more times since there are still many other players who have not claimed this achievement reward. When Jinwoo reveals that it's a good strategy for the Tuesday dungeon, Changsok lights up, realizing that it must be what Jinwoo used to break his first record. However, Jinwoo knows it's not what he used, but he has no intention of denying it since this will help him keep Changsok from suspecting him. Jinwoo tells Changsok that it's the same strategy he used, and anyone who uses it can clear the Tuesday dungeon in under 3 minutes. Changsok is surprised to hear this, but before he can ask any further questions, Jinwoo tells him to settle the payment for the information first. For any further questions, he demands an additional 50 high-grade summoning scrolls. Changsok's soul almost leaves his body when he hears this because 50 high-grade scrolls cost about 150 million won. Sensing his hesitation, Jinwoo decides to give him a little bit more information. He tells Changsok that the method he suggested works for lower-tier and highest-tier dungeons. He further adds that the achievement rewards from those dungeons are worth tens of billions. Changsok briefly considers it and knows that Jinwoo is right. Compared to what he's asking for, the value of what they can get with his strategy is even more, so he agrees to transfer Jinwoo the money once they verify his information. Changsok also promises to give him 10,000 low-grade scrolls every day. Jinwoo then promises Changsok that he'll not regret his decision. Later that day, Changsok gathers the team to test out Jinwoo's strategy, making everyone wonder why he summoned them after working hours. Changsok tells the group that he has something important he wants them to test out. This makes them excited because Changsok will never call them for no reason. He then starts by mentioning that the Tuesday dungeon record was broken, but he tells them that the record was broken with a strategy he recently obtained from overseas. He claims that he tested the strategy on Jinwoo and the results were good, which is why he wants others to test it out. Changsok only did this to protect Jinwoo's privacy, as he had promised earlier. The gullible team instantly believes Changsok and figures that's the reason he told them not to spread the word about Jinwoo. Changsok then announces that everyone will be performing a Tuesday dungeon time attack to test the strategy. But when he reveals that the core summon for clearing the dungeon is a modeled Komodo, everyone instantly doubts him. This is because the modeled Komodo is simply a weak lizard the size of an adult male. The Komodo is sturdy and has decent attack power, and it's a B-grade summon capable of dealing and taking damage. But all this is just a glamorous packaging because it's not easy to raise. The modeled Komodo is trash when compared to other B-grade summons, so it's commonly treated as a failure of a summon. However, what users don't know is that the modeled Komodo loves feasting on giant slimes, and releasing them in the dungeon can clear the dungeon as fast as it hunts the giant slimes. After Changsok finishes explaining the strategy to the group, they take turns to clear the dungeon. They then express their excitement at how fast they were able to reach the boss's room in under 4 minutes, thanks to the Komodo's appetite. With this new strategy, everyone believes South Korea finally has a shot at the world record as long as they can optimize their movement speed using runes. Now, the very summon everyone used to look down on has somehow become their personal favorite. A few days later, it is reported that South Korea has broken consecutive records and Changsok is credited for the success. After reading the article, Changsok decides to stick to Jinwoo like glue because he's definitely a sure bet for success despite being just a first-year gamer. Because of this, he decides to create a dedicated talent management team for all things Jinwoo. For the members of the team, he picks Jaya, Byungjin, and Taeseop. Shortly after receives the promised 150 million won, and Jinwoo is stunned that making money was always so easy. At the same time, Ramba stares at the money as she wonders how many cream buns she can purchase with that much money. Jinwoo then checks his inventory, where he finds the promised 10,000 low-grade summoning scrolls. Since Changsok has kept his promise to support him, Jinwoo decides to do his part in becoming a successful player. First, he pours water on the ground while Ramba prays to every deity under the sun as she wishes for Jinwoo to pull an X-rank summon. This was a summoning ritual he used to perform with her during his Jinugod days. After the ritual, Jinwoo is in high spirits as he begins to grind and tear through the scrolls. Unfortunately, after what feels like an eternity, Jinwoo and Ramba collapse from exhaustion. They had opened over 3,000 scrolls in an hour with nothing to show for it. Jinwoo laments as he wonders how so many scrolls only managed to produce a bunch of useless F-grade trash. Ramba pulls his ear, calling him a dummy for thinking that an X-grade would appear that easily. But Jinwoo believes it should and reminds her that she came out on his first try. Ramba tells him that her case was just pure luck, not a certainty. She explains that 10,000 or even 100,000 low-grade scrolls might not be enough to pull an X-grade summon. Jinwoo is puzzled to hear this and questions what she means. Realizing her master knows jack about the summoning system, Ramba decides to school him properly. She explains that summons exist in large quantities, and for example, 8 billion people can pull about 800 million horned caterpillars. Ramba further adds that although other summons are a dime a dozen, X-grade are classified as isolated, so there is only one of each. Jinwoo is shocked to hear this and asks her why, but Ramba doesn't know the reason why the X grades are that special. However, she says she's certain that only Jinwoo can summon the isolated X grades. As Jinwoo understands the gravity of the calculus lesson he just learnt from Ramba, he begins to panic internally. Since there are tens of thousands of types of summons, each of them is about 800 million, so the probability of him pulling an X grade is extremely small. Jinwoo collapses, realizing that he has a higher chance of winning the lottery several times in a row than pulling this off anytime soon. Still, Ramba consoles him, explaining that summons that have already been pulled will never appear again until they're sold. So basically, if all 800 million horned caterpillars have been summoned, then horned caterpillars will never appear in any subsequent summons. However, Jinwoo still feels like that doesn't do anything for the level of difficulty he's about to face. He wonders if opening mid-grade scrolls can help, but he immediately changes his mind because their efficiency is low, plus they're quite expensive, so there's little stock on the market. Jinwoo decides to stick to his low-grade scroll and keep grinding despite knowing that the odds are against him. Determined to find that one in 800 million, Jinwoo begins tearing through the scrolls, begging the deity of luck to find him while Ramba plays his little cheerleader. Unfortunately, after 2 weeks of tearing through scrolls, Jinwoo and Ramba are completely exhausted but still haven't made any progress. They had opened about 140,000 summoning scrolls without finding any X-grade summons. They even had to rent a room near the player zone just to synthesize the summons. All Ramba can think of at this point is eating cream bread, but Jinwoo doesn't want to give up because he can't keep leeching off his parents. A few moments later, he abruptly wakes Ramba so that they can synthesize the ton of useless summons they got. Soon after, they arrive at the synthesis center, which used to be a hotel. Just like how several buildings changed over the last few years, this hotel also transformed into the synthesis center. Jinwoo picks up his number while Ramba checks in again to make sure he remembers the right sequence to synthesize. Soon, it's their turn, and upon entering the synthesis room, Ramba excitedly cheers Jinwoo on since her progress rests on how well he follows the plan. First, Jinwoo registers Ramba, and immediately he confirms the synthesis. A bunch of trash summons are sacrificed to improve her stats. Even though they are useless summons, they still cost Jinwoo money, so he can't help but feel bad. Once the synthesis is complete, Ramba is upgraded to level 21, and her intelligence is increased by 2. Jinwoo is disappointed that all he got for sacrificing a whopping 140,000 summons is just a measly level 21. Ramba, on the other hand, flexes her non-existent muscles, fishing for a compliment from Jinwoo. Despite his disappointment, Jinwoo doesn't let Ramba see it, and he even praises her. Since the maximum level is 100, he notes that it might take an eternity to significantly raise Ramba's level. A few days later, Changseok is unusually chummy after forming a special management team dedicated to Jinwoo. One of the team members, Byongjin, wonders why his boss is excited, but all this is because of the expectations Changseok has placed on Jinwoo, and he plans to pour all his effort into what he considers an outstanding talent. He then asks Byongjin for updates on Jinwoo, and Byongjin explains that Jinwoo has been opening summoning scrolls. Changseok is surprised to hear that Jinwoo also came to collect even more scrolls. Byongjin tells him that Jinwoo also asked to buy more low-grade scrolls with the 150 million one he received earlier. Apparently, Jinwoo wants them to sell it to him below market price. Byongjin tells Changseok that it might not be possible because the management has been giving them trouble for constantly taking too many scrolls at once. Changseok wonders why Jinwoo has been reinvesting his money in these low-grade scrolls even though they give him a large amount every day. He suspects that there must be a genuine reason for his actions, so he tells Byongjin to sell it to Jinwoo at half price. Byongjin is utterly shocked and warns him that he might be penalized for giving Jinwoo such special treatment. However, Changseok tells him not to worry because he believes that Jinwoo might just become a national hero. Changseok is over the moon thinking about how the nation will praise him when that time comes, and it is revealed that he went through so much just to support a hero. Because of this, Changseok makes up his mind and decisively tells Byongjin to follow his instructions. However, he warns him to keep it a secret between themselves and the team, consisting of a girl named Jaya and another guy named Taeseop. Elsewhere, Jinwoo and Ramba continue to tear through summoning scrolls like cheap paper. Ramba complains to Jinwoo, wondering how long they have to keep at it, but he lets her know that they can only stop when they drop dead. Just then, Jia approaches them, and Ramba quickly holds her mouth shut to prevent Jaya from knowing she can talk. Jaya then introduces herself and informs him that she came regarding the matter of purchasing summoning scrolls. Jinwoo asks if they've agreed to give him the discount, but instead of going straight to the point, Jaya starts beating around the bush. Despite trying to be coy, Jinwoo knows she just wants him to know the amount of effort they've been putting in just to meet his requirements. After all the long tale, Jia tells him that they've decided to offer him the scrolls at half price. She announces it with pomp as if she were offering him a discount on salvation. Still, Jinwoo is surprised by the discount, but Jia drops another bombshell. She adds that they will also be providing an additional 100 million won budget for him. Jinwoo is stunned by the news, and Jaya tells him that he must keep it a secret. She then lets him know that all these perks are because they want to build a good relationship with him. Jinwoo agrees to keep everything a secret and assures her that he perfectly understands their sacrifice. As Jia leaves, Jinwoo reflects on how much support Changzok has given him so far. This makes him determined to repay him, and to do so, he must pull an X-grade summon quickly. Unfortunately, that is easier said than done because after a while, they still make no progress. Exhausted, Ramba complains to Jinwoo, but he has no plans to stop until he summons the Blast Dragon Mage and Hunkyo, the drill instructor. However, Ramba has heard enough of the tearing sounds, but Jinwoo keeps at it because giving up would be such a waste after coming this far. After several more useless summons, Jinwoo starts to beg every deity in the universe, and suddenly it pays off. As he tears yet another scroll, a bright golden light crackles, reminding him that it's the same as when Ramba first appeared. To their utter shock, the low-grade summoning scroll obtains the long-awaited X-grade Blast Dragon Mage that Jinwoo wished for. Jinwoo and Ramba shed tears of joy as all their efforts finally paid off. At first, they begin to celebrate, but Jinwoo suddenly realizes that he needs to ride this lucky streak, which might bring him more favorable results. He tells Ramba that they have to keep going, as it might be a hot streak, but Ramba is confused, so Jinwoo explains the concept of being on a roll. Determined to ride the wave, he tears another scroll, and just as he hoped, it actually pulls Hunkyo, the drill instructor, another X-grade summons that Jinwoo has been praying for. Ramba is stunned and begins to believe that the hot streak thing might actually be true. Jinwoo breaks down, watching his two summons appear as his hard work finally pays off. Immediately, he's summoned. Hunkyo, who has also been in quarantine for a long time, asks where he is. Hunkyo was an unpopular E-grade summons with weak combat abilities, but Jinwoo knows that his true value is that he's obsessed with training. His growth skills help others grow through training, and his charisma skill can overwhelm other summons. Even though these skills are nothing on their own, Hunkyo never gets tired. However, if he acquires the instructor skill through growth, he can unlock the potential of other summons and amplify their growth rate. This means he can make other summons stronger, and that is the reason Jinwoo was ahead in the rankings back then. Though Jinwoo looks forward to making his summon stronger, Ramba doesn't want to be trained into looking like a macho man. The moment Jinwoo greets the drill instructor, Hunkyo instantly recognizes him as Jinugod because he gave Hunkyo his name. Once Hunkyo confirms that Jinwoo is his old master, he bows down to greet him, saying he never expected they would meet after being quarantined for so long. Jinwoo watches him like a proud master because his two prodigies are exactly as he raised them. Blast Dragon then asks Jinwoo if he's truly Jinugod, and Jinwoo is surprised because this is the first time he has heard her voice. Blast Dragon is a D-grade mage of human origins and a magic dropout. However, an ancient Blast Dragon slumbers within her heart, making her an insane fire attribute damage dealer. Her skill is a Blast Dragon Wave which shoots a dragon-shaped flame. Although it is mediocre on its own, when awakened by Hunkyo's skills, she gains a skill called Predation. This Predation skill permanently increases the damage of the Blast Dragon Wave every time it murks a boss-level enemy. Since no one but Hunkyo can unlock this skill in Blast Dragon, Jinwoo was the only player who was able to properly utilize her abilities. Blast Dragon is over the moon when she realizes that Jinwoo is truly her master, Jinugod. She expresses how much she misses him, and Jinwoo also tells her that he missed her too, but he's practically drooling because he probably missed her for other suspicious reasons. Jinwoo then warns them that they can only speak when no one is around and they can never call him Jinugod. Hunkyo and Blast Dragon agree, and since it's nightfall, Jinwoo decides to head home to rest. The moment his body hits the bed, Jinwoo instantly falls asleep while his summons gather for a meeting. Since Hunkyo and Blast Dragon are more familiar with each other, they casually catch up, after which Blast Dragon gets familiar with Ramba. After that, Ramba greets Hunkyo and reminds him that they worked together but parted after a month. She tries to exert her seniority since she was already active when Hunkyo was recruited. However, Hunkyo instantly dismisses her and, with a menacing glare, tells her that they're too weak, so her claims of seniority are trash. This makes Ramba and Blast Dragon tremble under his gaze. He then tightens his fist, telling them that they must get in shape if they want to be of any use to their master. Hunkyo announces that they must keep training while Jinwoo sleeps. He then turns to Blast Dragon and orders her to start meditating to feel her mana, and promises to awaken her predation skill later. Like a soldier, Blast Dragon nods in agreement, and as Hunkyo turns to face Ramba, she cowers in a corner, scared out of her wits. Hunkyo tells her that she needs to train her strength with him to build her swing speed. However, Ramba protests because a fairy isn't supposed to be a musclehead, but Hunkyo fires back, asking if she doesn't want to be of use to Jinwoo. Ramba tries to explain that it's not what she means, but he cuts her off and tells her to start practicing by swinging a frying pan. But when he asks her to swing 5,000 times, Ramba almost explodes. She tries to call Jinwoo for help, but Hunkyo drags her out like a garbage bag while Jinwoo snores peacefully. Back at the player's headquarters, Jia tells Changsok that they can no longer access low-grade summoning scrolls due to an official notice from the director. Changsok is surprised to hear this and wonders why the director is suddenly paying attention to such a minor issue. Jia informs him that the director is also demanding a detailed report on how they used all the previous scrolls they've taken. This makes Changsok uneasy, and Jia mentions that his rival, Assemblyman Hisu, must be the one causing trouble behind the scenes. Changsok is annoyed by this because Hisu has been opposing him at every turn. Jia tells Changsok that she has prepared the report materials, but they have nothing to give Jinwoo. Changsok begins to panic because it's almost time to deliver the scrolls, but his eyes light up when he receives a message from Jinwoo. Changsok tells Jia that they'll not be needing the scrolls because Jinwoo doesn't say he has gotten what he requires. With that, Changsok decides it's time to settle scores with his rival, Hisu. Meanwhile, Jinwoo heads to a mountain area to find a normal dungeon. Basically, in the game, there are 4 types of dungeons, namely the Tower of Trials, Normal Dungeon, Daily Dungeon, and the Chaos Dragon Dungeon. The Daily Dungeon is where daily materials are gathered, while the Tower of Trials has a brutal difficulty compared to other dungeons, and it allows players to push their limits. Although the rewards in the Tower of Trials are immense, the mortality rate is equally high. The next one is the Chaos Dragon, a raid dungeon where players form parties to challenge it. The last type is the Normal Dungeon, which is the one Jinwoo is attempting to enter. They are also called stage dungeons, and in reality, they appear randomly. Players can clear them by forming a party, but Jinwoo doesn't need to because he's an OG player. A few minutes later, Jinwoo arrives at the entrance of the Normal Dungeon. After a dungeon is formed, a dungeon break where monsters pour out can occur if the dungeon is left unattended for a while, so Jinwoo is determined to clear this one quickly. The dungeon security asks Jinwoo for his license and tells him to enter after verifying it. As Jinwoo enters the dungeon, the security warns him to be careful. Upon entering, Jinwoo is met with weapons clashing all around him, making him realize it's a subjugation dungeon. Jinwoo watches as an armored army tries to keep a horde of orcs from breaking through their defense. The whole scene feels incredibly real to Jinwoo because he has only seen it while playing the game. He watches in shock as the orcs injure a couple of soldiers, and the soldiers panic, calling out for a healer. Realizing it's a real war, Jinwoo decides to get his mind in the game and do what he does best. With that, he activates a shield around himself and summons his team, telling them to get ready for battle. Apart from Ramba, Hunkyo, and Blast Dragon, he also summons a D-grade Golden Fairy and a D-grade Minikong, which he sacrificed his gorilla to get. Jinwoo notes that the best D-grade healer is the Golden Fairy, while Minikong is the best D-grade tank. Jinwoo tells Ramba to give Hunkyo an attack speed buff and tells Blast Dragon to provide covering fire for Hunkyo from behind. He then tells Minikong to head straight for the orc leader because the battle is over once the giant orc leader at the back is taken down. This is what makes the orc suppression dungeon pretty simple. Minikong follows Jinwoo's orders, and the moment he lands in front of the giant orc, it immediately attacks him, but Minikong blocks the strike. At the same time, Ramba gives Hunkyo the buff as he swiftly cuts through a bunch of orcs in a split second. Jinwoo is quite surprised because Hunkyo seems better than he remembers in the game. Jinwoo wonders if it's because he was marked as an X-grade summons. But Jinwoo is satisfied because Hunkyo is performing better than expected, which means clearing the dungeon might be even easier than he thought. While the other summons carry out their instructions, the Golden Fairy provides healing support to Minikong while he's engaged in a fierce battle with the giant orc leader. At the same time, the soldiers are relieved that they finally have a fighting chance with a powerful ally helping them. While everyone focuses on their role, Ramba, as usual, is up to no good as she plays around on the battlefield while dodging weapons. Jinwoo soon notices this and barks at her to stop clowning around. Ramba quickly apologizes while Hunkyo pummels an orc for throwing an axe at Jinwoo. Meanwhile, Blast Dragon begins chanting her incantations as she prepares to summon her flames. She then activates the Blast Dragon wave, and a large dragon-shaped flame erupts forward, instantly cooking the orcs medium rare. The giant orc leader watches as his minions burn to a crisp, and it is at this moment that he realizes he's in a bigger mess than he can handle. But before he can do anything, Hunkyo swoops in and, with a single strike, sends his head to another dimension, clearing the dungeon. As the group celebrates their first team victory, Blast Dragon levels up to level 5, and her intelligence increases by 2. Hunkyo also attains the same level, but his intelligence increases by 1. Jinwoo is rewarded with an intermediate summoning scroll worth 500,000 won. Since he can earn that amount in just 2 minutes, Jinwoo makes up his mind to find the next dungeon as soon as possible. While Ramba congratulates everyone on leveling up, Jinwoo reflects on how easy it is to stack paper just by doing the thing he knows how to do best, so he decides to turn his life around with relentless grind. Back at the headquarters, Changsok is busy regretting every decision that led him into his current predicament. Jia scolds him for making a stupid bet and wonders where he got the confidence to propose something outrageous. Changsok protests, explaining that Hisu started it, so he couldn't help himself. Just a few moments ago, he had gone for a meeting, determined to settle scores with Hisu, only to be floored before he could do anything. Hisu smugly accused Changsok of wasting money without producing any useful talent so far. He further pointed out that talents recommended by Changsok have never made the national team. Changsok's heart almost flatlined because of this insult, but he couldn't even fight back, and that didn't stop Hisu, who claimed that Changsok was putting on airs just because a Tuesday dungeon record was broken. As much as Changsok wanted to fire back, he couldn't because the talents Hisu trained always make the national team every year. He might be an annoying brat, but Changsok knows he has skills to back his boasts. However, Changsok was fed up with being treated like trash, so he boldly claimed that he would foster a talent that would be selected for the national team, and Hisu took advantage of his claim to propose a bet. Since the national player limit is 10 people, Hisu proposed that they bet on whose talent can climb to a higher rank. Changsok agreed, but Hisu also proposed that the loser must publicly admit they're inferior and then resign. In the heat of the moment, Changsok agreed and even asked Hisu to sign a contract. But now that he's clear-headed, Changsok regrets making such an absurd deal. Jia wonders if he accepted the bet because of Jinwoo. Although she finds Jinwoo impressive, he's still just an ordinary gamer, and compared to the current ranked players, Jia feels that Jinwoo is just trash. Changsok tells her that he understands her concerns, but he still believes that Jinwoo is the real deal as long as they give him enough support. He mentions that Jinwoo can also give them good information if they invest in him. However, Jia still feels like Changsok might be giving him too much credit. Suddenly, Taeseop bursts into the room, practically screaming, startling them. Changsok had told him to look into the player who had been clearing dozens of dungeons, and he wanted to report his findings. To their shock, Taeseop announces that the player they've been looking for is actually Jinwoo. Even Jia, who was a doubting Thomas a few minutes ago, became an instant believer as she wondered how someone who only registered a month ago managed to clear several D-grade dungeons in under 5 minutes. Changsok immediately lights up as all his calculations finally come to pass. He rubs it in Jia's face, reminding her that he was right all along and Jinwoo was definitely the right talent to bet everything on. Back home, Jinwoo is over the moon as he checks his bank account, which has more zeros than his lifespan. He can't believe he earned a whopping 16 million won in just 4 days. In those 4 days, Jinwoo and his team cleared 160 D-grade dungeons, and this is the money he earned selling the intermediate summoning scrolls from the dungeon run. Jinwoo celebrates as his efforts have finally paid off, even though Ramba and the others did most of the blood and sweating. He notes that this new world was meant just for him, and all those years of wasting his life gaming have finally paid off. He decides to split the money into different bank accounts, one for the team's living expenses, another to save for his family, and a third savings account for himself. He plans to save at least 10 million won there each month to be spent strictly for his enjoyment. Jinwoo can't wrap his head around how he went from unemployed to easily making 10 million won monthly. He also decides to keep a separate account for money to be spent on his summons. Even though money is important, Jinwoo knows that the most important thing right now is his value as a player. Jinwoo decides it's time to equip his summons with runes and enhancements, since they have all surpassed level 30 while clearing several dungeons. And the best way to do this is by farming daily dungeons, and Jinwoo knows he will need core summons to do this quickly. He then checks the player web marketplace to see if he can buy any core summons, but the outrageous price there almost sends his spirit flying from his body. Jinwoo can't believe it's so expensive to get an average C-grade summons, and the B-grade ones even cost at least 200 million won. He also notices that there are no A-grade or S-grade listings in the marketplace, which is normal because there is only a 1% chance of getting them. Realizing he can't easily get what he wants, Jinwoo decides to call for reinforcements from the headquarters. Back at the headquarters, Byungjin bursts into Changsok's office, announcing that Jinwoo has sent in a new request. At first, Changsok is excited at the thought of fulfilling the request of his #1 prodigy, but his excitement vanishes when Byungjin shows him the list. Changsok is completely shocked that Jinwoo is requesting that they purchase an outrageous amount of summons, amounting to over 1 billion won. Refusing to believe it, Changsok asks Byungjin again to confirm that his eyes aren't deceiving him. He can't wrap his head around the request because the headquarters doesn't even give its core employees that kind of privilege, which is why Changsok himself has been stuck with C-grade summons. He then asks Byungjin what information Jinwoo is giving in exchange for the items on the list. Byungjin tells him that it's the secret method for a time attack on all the daily dungeons. Changsok feels it's a bold trade since Jinwoo is giving them a lot and not just one piece of broken information. Despite the outrageous demand, he believes it's worth it and confidently tells Byungjin that he will try to convince the director. Unfortunately, Changsok's confidence is worth nothing because the director rejects the proposal in no time. Overwhelmed by frustration, Changsok lashes out, pointing out that their country is always dead last because no one wants to take risks as he does. Taeseop is confused as he watches him make a fuss, and Jia explains everything to him. Jia isn't surprised the request wasn't approved because Jinwoo's list was a bit too much. She wishes more people could be as passionate as Chang Seok. Taeseop asks Chang Seok what the director told him, and Chang Seok explains that the director wants evidence that Jinwoo can clear the dungeons. But the problem is that Jinwoo needs these high-grade summons to pull off his plans. Jaya believes it would be a jackpot if Jinwoo's information about clearing all the daily dungeons is true. Chang Seok also believes it's a good deal, but the brass hats in the headquarters are too dumb to recognize Jinwoo's supremacy. Jia tells Chang Seok that the price Jinwoo is requesting is small compared to the value he's offering. Chang Seok can't believe his ears because over $1 billion is definitely not chicken change. Suddenly, Jia proposes providing the funds instead, leaving them stunned. But this reminds Chang Seok that Jia's background is far from ordinary. Apparently, Jia is the fourth granddaughter of Daesung Group, South Korea's #1 conglomerate. Basically, she was born with a golden spoon and received the best education money in class can provide. However, she gave up on management rights because she was more interested in players. And currently, the player she finds most intriguing is none other than Jinwoo because he knows way too much for a beginner. The fact that Jinwoo can boldly negotiate with the nation is another thing that stands out to Jia. All this is what prompted Jaya to come up with the idea of creating a one-man talent agency for Jinwoo. She wants to invest in him and reap the profits from the information he provides. The new agency would be independent of the headquarters and would have a whole new approach. When Chang Seok asks her again if she's sure about spending that kind of money, Jia is puzzled. She reminds him that her bank balance is not something he needs to worry about, and Chang Seok feels stupid for asking a chaebol heir such a stupid question. Jia assures him that the money is nothing to her, but she decides to meet with Jinwoo before making her final decision. The following day, Jia sets up a meeting with Jinwoo in a fancy restaurant. Jinwoo receives 5-star treatment the moment he walks in, making him feel like the headquarters is giving him quite the royal treatment. When Jia sent him a message earlier asking him to meet regarding the answer to his request, he was surprised. He didn't know they would make up their mind so quickly about what he considers a measly piece of information. Still, he feels a bit uneasy about Jia not being an easy person to negotiate with. But thanks to her, Jinwoo was able to come to a restaurant that's more insane than a 5-star hotel. The kind of treatment he received on his way in made him feel like an out-of-place puzzle. However, it made him feel happy and quite generous enough to want to give them more information. The moment Jinwoo comes face-to-face with Jia again, he feels a little pressured because he had looked into her and what he found almost sent his spirit flying. Her looks, family background, and ability were beyond perfect. Though she joined the player headquarters with top marks, Jinwoo did not expect a third-generation chaebol to be working a simple office job at the headquarters. Jia thanks him for coming, but Jinwoo is surprised that she's alone. Jia tells him that his business today is with her and not the headquarters. As they settle to have their meal, Jia breaks the news to Jinwoo, explaining that the headquarters might not provide any further support. As usual, she tries to play the emotional card to let Jinwoo know how much effort they put into helping him, but Jinwoo doesn't fall for her sob story. However, he keeps a straight face, accepting the rejection like a champ. Jinwoo knows he has nothing to lose anyway since he can just top the ranking on his own. However, for them, it's a different story because he will stop giving them any more information. But to his surprise, Jaya presents him with another opportunity. She tells him that she plans to establish a talent agency dedicated to him. Jinwoo briefly considers the proposal because, unlike the headquarters with all the red tape, a corporation like Daesung, which focuses solely on profits, might be a better fit. Jinwoo notes that he can certainly bring them that profit while they provide what he needs, and what Jinwoo needs is someone to buy his information at the highest value while providing him with an endless supply of resources. Sensing his hesitation, Jia lists out the benefits of working with her. She assures him that the Daesung Group will provide him with professional care and as much support as he needs with no cap. Jinwoo is shocked to hear this, but convinced that working with Jia is the best call because money never lies. Jinwoo begins to butter her up, singing her praises while Jia practically licks up the compliments. Since they seem to be on the same page, she decides to explain the details of her proposal and promises to visit him the following day to close the deal. Jia then tells him to check on the summons he requested, but Jinwoo is surprised because they haven't even signed the contract yet. However, Jia says she's already preparing for whether or not he signs the contract and tells him to consider it as a gift. Jinwoo is amazed at how easy it is for a chaebol heir to give out a gift worth over $1 billion without even batting an eye. The next day, Ajin tracks down Jinwoo because he hasn't been in contact for a while. She heard he got a separate place and wonders what he's been up to. Just then, Jia walks past her, leaving Ajin completely mesmerized. Upon closer inspection, she realizes that Jaya looks like someone she has seen on the gram. Ajin's brain buffers for a while as she tries to remember where she has seen that face. After a while, her jaw drops as she finally remembers Jia's identity. At the same time, Jinwoo exercises while Hunkyo drills the summons, determined to turn them into the dream team. Suddenly, he hears someone approaching and quietly informs the others to stop talking. Jia soon arrives and everyone finally takes a break. She notes that Jinwoo has been exercising since morning and notices his summons standing like the usual mute ones. However, she also notes that she's never seen some of them before. Jinwoo tells her that they're his main team and claims that he'll introduce them later. He then hurriedly signals for them to continue their training elsewhere. After they leave, Jia gives Jinwoo the gift she promised, which he receives in the form of a trade. Jinwoo recalls that the trade works the same as in the game, which also supports trading between players. In the game, players can buy and sell or exchange items and negotiate prices. Once an agreement is reached, players successfully make the exchange. However, the system hunts and curses to death any player who scams another player. Jinwoo checks the summons provided by Jaya and is surprised that she was able to find everything on his list. He immediately accepts the trade and thanks Jaya for the valuable gift, which she claims is nothing to her. Next, she presents the contract to Jinwoo asking if they can discuss the terms of their deal. Jia then tells him that the name of the new agency is Yubek, a combination of their surnames. She offers him 70% of the shares and takes 25%, while the remaining 5% is left for Changseok. She informs him that Changseok will remain at the headquarters to continue supporting them, while Taeseop and Byongjin will be recruited to the new agency. Jinwoo wonders how that will work since Taeseop and Byongjin already work at the headquarters, but Jia tells him that they've already resigned happily after she offered them triple their previous salary. Still, Jinwoo hesitates to accept the offer because he feels that having 70% of the shares might be unfair to Jia. However, Jaya assures him that she's certain about her offer as she plans to maximize the value of her 25%. Besides, she's not worried about voting rights because it's a one-man company. Jia gave him that many shares because she wants to build a relationship between them, which is the most important thing in every business. Jinwoo finally agrees to her terms and signs the contract, making her happy. With that, both of them seal the deal as they look forward to creating magic together. Suddenly, Hunkyo jumps into the bushes when he senses movement. A few seconds later, he emerges, pulling Ajin and her shadow summon by the legs like meat for slaughter. Jinwoo is stunned to see his sister and immediately questions what she is doing behind the bushes, but Ajin is still trying to recover from Hunkyo's stealth capture. After Jia leaves, Jinwoo questions Ajin to find out why she was lurking around. He learns that his sister is a fan of Jaya, and she secretly followed her after recognizing her earlier. Ajin tries to explain that she's not some creepy Saesong fan and she only walked behind Jia out of curiosity. But Jinwoo tries to convince her that what she did is classic stalker behavior. Jinwoo asks why she was spying instead of just making her presence known. Seeing that Ajin has no plans of telling the truth, he uses a truth status effect on her to force it out. Unable to hold out anymore, Ajin confesses that she was indeed spying on them to uncover his secrets. She then eagerly pounces on him, demanding to know how her brother knows someone as important as Jia. She drops him 1,000 questions in one breath, not giving Jinwoo any space to breathe. Before Jia left, she had greeted Ajin, making her feel like she had just fulfilled all her life's wishes. However, Jia didn't stay long, as she hopes to meet Jinwoo's family later, since their contract allows them to know about their deal. Ajin continues to bug Jinwoo to tell her why he was meeting Jia, and she even puts on some fake tears for some added dramatic effect. Jinwoo finally gives in and tells her everything, including the fact that he was a well-known gamer. He also tells her about his record-breaking dungeon records and explains how he met Jia at the headquarters. Jia mentions that Jinwoo was addicted to a game and asks if it's the same as Battle of the Summoners. However, Jinwoo quickly denies it, saying it was a different game. He then lies to Ajin that he only played Battle of the Summoners for about a year because he doesn't want to reveal that he's the legendary Jinnu god. Despite that, Ajin is still surprised he was able to play what was considered a trash game for up to a year. She nudges him proudly, pointing out that his obsession with games finally paid off. Jinwoo wants to tell his sister the truth, but he holds back because he's afraid knowing too much might put her in danger. His family has sacrificed too much for him in the 3 years he was in a coma, so Jinwoo doesn't want to drag them into any complicated situations. He decides that protecting them is the first priority, rather than reclaiming his name, and he must get stronger to do this. Ajin asks why he's only telling her the truth now, and Jinwoo assures her that he was planning to tell her at some point. He tells her to keep it a secret from their parents, as he plans to explain everything to them later. Just then, Jinwoo notices Ajin's summon acting like an annoying fly while the others try to maintain silence. Fed up, Hunkyo tries to capture it, and Jinwoo asks Ajin why the dark elf is behaving weirdly. He advises her to get a shadow wolf and pair it with the elf because without it, the dark elf will keep being a brainless trash. Ajin is surprised to hear this because she has never heard about a summon called a shadow wolf. Jinwoo tells her that it's a B-grade summons, and Ajin wonders how on earth she's supposed to find a rare B-grade summon. She then searches for it on the marketplace and almost gags when she sees the outrageous price required to purchase it. Ajin questions Jinwoo, asking him how he expects her to come up with an insane 500 million won, which will probably take her about 20 years to earn. However, Jinwoo is unfazed and assures her that he'll help her get it within a month. Ajin burst into laughter, and refusing to believe his claims, she tells him to tone down the boasting. She smugly tells him not to act cool just because he's a gamer who played for 1 year before the awakening. Ajin tells him that she'll save up for the Shadow Wolf herself, but Jinwoo stands on his claim, telling her not to gag when he gives it to her later. With that, he leaves with his summons before Ajin can say anything. As she watches her brother boldly leave, Ajin notes that something about him feels different. However, she can't seem to place her hand on it, and her shadow elf, which used to be so intimidating, now seems more like a measly mosquito in her eyes. But one thing Ajin is sure of is that her brother has become a whole new person. 1 week later, Jinwoo's new team prepares to send him into another dungeon. They present him with a new vest, which Jia explains he has to wear in every daily dungeon run. She adds that the first product of Ubek Company is information, so they'll be selling clear videos at a premium price. She explains that the high-tech vest is equipped with a camera, and wearing the gear records everything in high definition. Jia tells Jinwoo that the vest is light, so it will not get in his way during missions. After helping him put on the vest, they start fussing over details, giving Jinwoo smiles that make him more uneasy than entering a dungeon. As he prepares to enter the dungeon, Jinwoo lets Jia know that it's his first time in a Monday dungeon. He asks if she minds that it might not be a clean run. Jia assures him that it's fine, as they will edit only the best parts of the recording. Before entering, he calmly asks her if it's okay for him to break the national record. Although taken aback by his request, Jia tells him that he can, but she's confused because he just said that the dungeon run might not be smooth. She wonders if he's joking or feeling pressured because of her investment. Still, she tells him to relax and do this at his own pace without worrying too much. Jinwoo agrees and finally goes in confident that he can easily break the national record for the Monday dungeon, which is about 7 minutes. The Monday dungeon is the only dungeon that drops attack-type runes, and the clearing time determines ranking. Basically, attack runes are crucial in Battle of the Summoners because a player cannot progress without them, which is why they're called all-purpose runes. Jinwoo notices that the Monday dungeon is a defense dungeon where one has to hold off waves of undead for 30 minutes. However, because clearing time still matters for rankings, players can clear it in no time by defeating the final boss, the Lich. Because of this, targeting the final boss has become the usual strategy. Jinwoo then checks his new equipment to make sure it's working before picking his team. He had arranged his summons into a team of 3 and configured them for different uses. Jinwoo picks Team B, which consists of X-Grade Honkyo, Combat Sheriff, Minikong, Priest of Radiance, all C-Grade summons, and Golden Fairy, the only D-Grade. The system soon notifies Jinwoo that the Undead Legion is swarming in and instructs him to hold them off until reinforcements arrive. As the 30-minute countdown begins, Jinwoo's team begins their rampage with Minikong taking the lead. After Minikong tears through the first wave, Jinwoo and his summons keep moving as they prepare for the next one. Jinwoo orders that they move to a higher ground, and Honkyo nods his head in agreement, showing just how intelligent he is because he knows that Jinwoo is currently recording. A fierce battle ensues, and Jinwoo and his team manage to reach the top in 2 minutes. Honkyo cuts the undead like butter while Minikong is taking them down with brute force. Jinwoo is so impressed with their performance that he thanks his stars that they are not against him. Jinwoo then tells the Combat Sheriff to get ready for what is about to come. Apparently, the Combat Sheriff excels in long-range attacks, but players didn't really use him because his damage is quite low. However, Jinwoo wants to use him because the Lich doesn't have much HP. Jinwoo tells the Sheriff not to fire yet, and he orders Radiant to cast her Blessing skill first. The effect of her Blessing skill basically removes the Lich's ranged immunity skill, which is called the Dark Shield. After Jinwoo confirms that the shield is gone, he tells the Sheriff to open fire. On the other side, Minikong is busy tearing through the undead, and when it gets surrounded, Radiant casts her skill to help. The Sheriff sends several shots at the Lich, but the monster basically tanks it. Jinwoo is not surprised because he expected this much. However, the Lich's HP is actually dropping with every shot that hits it. Because players have weak runes, they always consider this method inefficient, which is why they even avoid using it. But this is not for someone as capable as Jinwoo. One of the undead lunges toward Jinwoo, aiming to knock him down, but his trusted drill instructor is there to cut down the monster. By combining the right skills and effective methods, Jinwoo and his summons finally take down the boss monsters. He clears the dungeon in 4 minutes, thus breaking the national record for this. Meanwhile, Jia and her team are monitoring the situation on the outside. Jia doesn't expect Jinwoo to perform a miracle because they just gave him the summons in just a week. Nonetheless, Jia tells the team that they would still support Jinwoo no matter what. Byungjin then asks her if she thinks Jinwoo would be able to break all the daily dungeon records. Jia is taken aback by the question, and Byungjin says it is already impressive that he broke Tuesday's record, but he is worried because Jinwoo hasn't explained how he plans to clear the others. He continues blabbing, and Jia can sense that they are worried. Jia reminds them that she started the business with her money, and if their fear eventually comes true, she assures the two that she will make sure it doesn't affect their careers because they trusted and followed her. In fact, their salaries won't change, and the moment she says this, she looks like an angel sent from heaven. The two hug each other passionately, concluding that they are in the best place one can work. Deep down, Jia is not worried because she has the money, and in addition, she is pretty sure Jinwoo has something deeper that he is hiding. Jia could sense that there was more because of how relaxed he was when he entered the dungeon, as if the dungeon meant nothing to him. Just then, a report comes in that the record has been broken, and when they ask which of the records was broken, the official reveals that it is the Monday dungeon record. The new record is 4 minutes, which is 3 minutes faster than the previous record. Everyone goes into a frenzy, asking who broke the record. When Byungjin and his friend realize that it was Jinwoo, they are left speechless. Even Jia starts to tremble from excitement and the realization that she has finally hit the jackpot. With a bright smile on her face, she concludes that her new business venture would be a massive success. Still in the dungeon, Jinwoo turns off the recorder because he has something else he wants to do. It turns out that he wants to initiate an auto battle for his current team. In the game, players could activate auto battle once they had cleared a daily dungeon. As long as the summons keep running the loop, the rewards will only keep stacking up automatically. Jinwoo unsummons Hunkyo and whips out Ramba, telling her she is leaving the grind to her. Ramba is surprised that she is getting the task instead of the drill instructor, and Jinwoo lets her know that the drill instructor is going to train the others. He asks her if she is interested in training with Hunkyo, but the moment she remembers what she usually goes through during training sessions, she gladly accepts the Monday daily grind. Jinwoo plans to pile up rewards through auto-hunting, while the other summons also focus on training. Jinwoo calls this the flawless routine with zero waste. As he steps out of the dungeon, he lets Ramba know that he is leaving everything to her, and she gladly takes up the task. Jinwoo steps out of the dungeon only to be welcomed like royalty, and Jia celebrates him, saying she was confident that she could count on him. Jinwoo chuckles nervously before handing over the vest, telling Jia that the recording is there. Jinwoo asks if there is anything else she needs, and she says no. She assures Jinwoo that she will make sure the footage doesn't leak, so he doesn't have to worry about the news. However, Jinwoo shocks her, telling her that he doesn't actually care if the record goes public, but the only thing he wants is Jia's assurance that his family is going to be protected. Since the country is filled with gangs, Jinwoo believes that the company will still be able to protect him with its better security. Jia then assures Jinwoo that she is going to use every bit of power she has to make sure that his family is safe. For Tuesday's daily dungeon, Jinwoo breaks his former record by putting his summons to use in the right way. For the Wednesday daily dungeon, it is held in a cold region. The moment Jinwoo steps into the dungeon, he is already shivering. He immediately summons the Frost Cat and Wind Falcon that are C rank and B rank, respectively. In addition, he pops out the Titanium Golem, which is B rank, and accompanying the Golem is a Horned Fairy, which is C rank. He then tops it all up by pulling out the Draconic Mage. For a dungeon like this, Jinwoo knows that it is important to have a summon with cold resistance, and the best among them is the Frost Cat. The monsters they are supposed to fight soon show up and are a bunch of angry snowmen. Jinwoo immediately puts the Golem to action while using the Falcon to provide a speed buff. Jinwoo and his team climb onto the Golem, and as it runs through the cold wastelands, Jinwoo almost passes out because of how fast the Golem is running. However, he is willing to endure because no reward comes to those who don't clear a dungeon. The snowmen start hurling ice projectiles at them, but the Golem is able to tank everything like it's nothing. However, Jinwoo doesn't need the Golem only for its defenses. He also needs the Golem to be able to take a route that only it can take. The Golem grabs onto a cliffside, and as they are about to leap onto the top, Jinwoo tells the Blast Dragon to get ready. Once they reach the top, the boss monster shows up and Jinwoo orders the Horned Fairy to do her thing. The Horned Fairy releases a massive flammable liquid that the Blast Dragon uses to enhance her flames. The entire area is engulfed in fire, killing the boss monster in the process. Jinwoo celebrates his incredible achievement because he was able to clear it in 4 minutes. He is in the middle of his celebration when he crashes to his knees because of motion sickness. After this, Jinwoo's news started flying around, with everyone wondering who Jinwoo is. Everyone began shifting their attention to Jinwoo because it is already looking like everything he is doing is not a fluke. Big news media pastes him on their front pages with the big question of who he is. Other players also begin getting interested in Jinwoo's case because he looks like a normal dude, but he is able to break their best players' records. As he prepares to challenge the Thursday dungeon, everyone keeps their focus on him, wondering if he is finally going to hit a wall. When the director of the board hears this, he calls his assistant to ask him more about Jinwoo. The two learn that Jinwoo is the same dude whom Changsok pitched to them. They remember that Jinwoo wanted summons in exchange for information, but they refused him unless he gave them information. At this point, the director realizes that Jinwoo is quite legit, and he sighs in frustration. The director starts regretting the fact that they didn't bring Jinwoo closer when they had the chance, because in politics, results are all that matter. He knows just how much they would have benefited at that point if they had backed Jinwoo just as Changsok wanted. The director silently blames Hisu for this because they basically lost a golden goose that walked to them easily. The director then tells his secretary to reach out to Jinwoo and bring him in, no matter the cost. Talking about the rewards of the daily dungeons, it turns out that the Monday and Wednesday dungeons drop runes, and Tuesday drops abrasives. As for the Thursday dungeon, it drops skill books, and this is the dungeon Jinwoo is about to challenge. Even though the skill books don't have unique skills, they still provide other useful skills, which is why it is worth farming. In addition to this, it basically means Jinwoo doesn't have to bother with the Sunday dungeon, since the Sunday dungeon drops skill books too. However, the Thursday dungeon is way easier, which is why they make Sunday their day off. Shortly afterward, the boss monster appears, and surprisingly, the Thursday dungeon is a boss rush. The moment one steps into the dungeon, they encounter the boss, which has an insane defense. The regular method is to use the White Wolf to take down its defense with constant attack spamming. However, Jinwoo is not up for all these because one can just brute force their way through if they have enough damage per second. Jinwoo knows he can't sell the current video as a guide because they are taking on the challenge with maxed out summons. Jinwoo decides that he is going to stick to the standard way of using the wolf to take down its defense. Even without the maxed out summons, he can still take on the challenge because the boss monster, which is a dirt golem, has one weakness, which is its head. Jinwoo orders his summons to attack the golem's head, and they unleash a barrage of attacks on the monster's head. The attack is so intense that the golem loses its head in no time and the boss monster is defeated. Jinwoo clears the dungeon in 5 minutes, and he is glad that he was able to break the record by just a minute. Jinwoo admits that Hunkyo is truly broken, but his whole bet is on the Blast Dragon because she is the one overpowered summon that can clear a dungeon in 1 second. Just as usual, Jinwoo tells his summons to run the dungeon again. When Jinwoo finally steps out of the dungeon, he is met with 2 officials from the headquarters who are from the director's office. Jinwoo wonders what the headquarters want from him because he has sealed off that part of his journey. The officials inform him that they have reviewed his proposal from last time, and since he has proven his capabilities, they have reconsidered their decision. Before they can even finish what they are saying, Jinwoo cuts in, telling them not to worry about it all. The 2 are shocked to hear this, and deep down, Jinwoo knows what is best for him because Jia is willing to just hand him whatever it is that he wants, unlike the headquarters which would review every bit of the offer. Jinwoo tells the 2 that he doesn't need them again because he has signed with another company, and if they have anything to say to him, they should go through Jia, who is in charge of Yubak. As he walks off, the 2 ask him what Yubak is because they have no idea what he is talking about. One of them immediately figures out that it is important that they look into the whole thing. His colleague, on the other hand, is worried that they have already lost a big gem. Apparently, the Friday dungeon works differently from the other dungeons because while the others are focused on killing monsters, players are required to physically run to clear the dungeon. In preparation for the dungeon, Jinwoo heads to a remote area to train. He summons a wyvern, and he climbs on the wyvern to head to the East Sea. Sitting on the wyvern, Jinwoo gets to see the wonderful view from above. He smiles like a kid who has just been handed their first toy. Jinwoo is able to quickly adapt to flying the wyvern, and when he finally lands, Hunkyo and the Blast Dragon commend him. Jinwoo thinks it's a normal thing, but they let him know that they struggled during their first rides. It then dawns on Jinwoo that the 2 actually rode wyverns and dolphins back in the game. After the whole praise session, Jinwoo tells them that it is time for the dolphin riding practice. Jinwoo tells his trusted summons that he is counting on them because they already have the experience. Hunkyo and the Blast Dragon assure him that they are there to help him out. Some days later, Jinwoo finally challenges the Friday dungeon that drops special runes. It is also the dungeon where he earned the title, God of Time Attacks. As he prepares to take on the challenge, he calls on the Wind Falcon, telling it to give him a speed buff. The Falcon does this, and as the timer counts down, Jinwoo dashes through the track. While running through the track, he is expected to dodge projectiles too. Jinwoo had always done it on his phone, but now that he is doing it physically, he concludes that it is a way more fun than controlling the whole game sequence through a screen. As he continues down the track, Jinwoo branches into the hidden route that he knows. The path is a waterway that one is expected to run over, but Jinwoo has another plan. He summons the dolphin, and by going underwater he is able to dodge the obstacles above. Sometime later, the dolphin lunges out of the water, and the wyvern takes over. From that moment forward, Jinwoo is to fly over the rest of the obstacles with the wyvern, and in no time, Jinwoo reaches the finish line. Jinwoo surprisingly cleared the dungeon in just 2 minutes, and with this, he broke the national record as usual.